Junichi, a high school student with no experience in romance, dreads meeting new people at the start of the semester. Students usually use class assignments as opportunities to start dating others. However, that isn't the case with Junichi and his friends Shinpei, Kigo, and Minoru. Shinpei cries in jealousy to see her classmates flirting with each other, while Junichi initially thought it would be easy for him to get a girl in high school. Now that he's already in his second year, he can't help but question why he still hasn't experienced physical intimacy. Junichi's childhood friend Nene, who's liked him for years, then arrives to lend him the lunch he forgot to bring. Her teasing makes him blush and mock her kid-like body despite already being in high school, causing her to storm out, annoyed. Afterward, his friends, attracted to Nene's childlike appearance, fantasize about her body and demand to be introduced to her. Their beautiful classmate Yui greets Junichi and expresses hope in getting closer to him, leaving him flustered as the boys deem her attractive even without a large chest. The three then read dirty magazines, leaving a bad impression on their classmates as they convince Junichi to join them. However, he jolts and becomes embarrassed when Yukana, who's referred to as a gal, confronts him, calling him disgusting. During break time, Junichi is flabbergasted to see his friends fantasizing about Yukana and her body, so he scolds them for getting him embarrassed earlier. Still, they firmly think that Yukana is easy to get despite being a gal based on their magazines, making him imagine being intimate with her. Suddenly, the three play a game about who in their group will ask Yukana out, and unluckily, Junichi is the one chosen. He calls them crazy, but he shortly gets second thoughts when they suggest it might be his chance to mate for the first time. So Junichi shouts for them to stop, but he's detained while Kigo rushes to put a letter allegedly from him in Yukana's locker. After class, Yukana heads to her locker with Renko, her best friend who's also a gal, and spots the letter. Reading this, she suggests going out to karaoke some other time as she has something to do, and Renko calmly accepts. She then meets up with Junichi behind the school, who flusters in disbelief that she actually came. Hopeful to prove his friends wrong and finally lose his V-card, Junichi kneels and begs to go out with her. However, Yukana immediately declines since she recognizes him as the one who was reading dirty magazines earlier. This makes him dread the embarrassment of her rejection throughout the entirety of high school. Junichi apologizes for confessing so suddenly, but he can't bring himself to get up as he can see her underwear, and Yukana expresses curiosity about why he likes her. Knowing that his want of only getting intimate is immoral, he feigns being attracted to her rude personality, making her realize his goal to get her in bed. Junichi dreads his reputation again and plans to run away at any chance he gets, but seeing her underwear makes him dedicated again until she notices and gets closer to flirt. Confused, he gazes down at her body and becomes embarrassed when she mocks him for having no experience in intimacy. More serious now, Yukana questions if he truly likes her, and Junichi finally gets up, giving up his confession as he admits to being immoral. However, he's left shocked when she finds herself interested in him and agrees to date him. That night, Junichi lies in bed, still in disbelief that a beautiful gal agreed to date him. He has second thoughts about Yukana's intentions to spread bad rumors about him, but his alter ego refuses to think negatively, causing his thoughts to jumble. He then dreams fantasies about being dominated by Yukana alone in school until he comes back to his senses when he falls off the bed, waking up. Walking to school, Junichi starts to worry about their relationship and plans to avoid Yukana instead, but when his friends appear and apologize, he realizes they're the reason he's in this situation. So he opens up about his feeling that Yukana might ruin his high school life, tearing up when the three claim they'll always be there for him. Just then, they're all speechless when Junichi receives a text from Yukana, a flirtatious picture of herself. This causes the three to change their demeanor, deeming him a traitor as they leave. Shinpei questions if they've already kissed, which Junichi denies, so Shinpei shares that a gal would give kisses all the time if they were close, making him fantasize again and request guidance. To get closer to Yukana, Shinpei orders him to invite her to karaoke, confusing them as he explains that getting a karaoke room is one of the secret ways couples use to flirt and make love. Suddenly, he coughs out blood and weakens at the thought of it, leaving Junichi worried. Entering the classroom, Junichi wonders how he'll invite Yukana when Yui greets him, offering to help upon noticing him deep in thought. However, he dismisses it since he can't reveal his immoral plans, and when Yukana arrives mentioning the selfie she sent, everyone is shocked to learn that they're dating. At break time, Junichi stresses over his experience of random people approaching him ever since the announcement. He was unable to invite Yukana to karaoke, and she's currently unapproachable as she's preoccupied with her friends' questions. As his friends hurriedly leave, he races after them, questioning their sudden avoidance. They reveal their resentment, envious that he's found a cute girlfriend despite their insistence on him asking Yukana out. Left bewildered, Yukana appears and invites him to hang out and outside, and Nene cries and flees upon learning they're dating. Junichi is then speechless to discover that they'll be doing karaoke, but he panics realizing he doesn't know what to sing with a gal. Inside the karaoke room, he's perplexed by a sign cautioning against malicious behavior. His nerves escalate as Yukana returns with drinks, intensifying as she unknowingly nears her chest to his face before she searches for a song to sing. The thoughts of things leading to intimacy then vanish after seeing her have fun singing. Later, Junichi realizes he needs to sing too, but he only knows anime songs. Observing that she's singing an intimate song, he panics again, recalling the rule Shinpei mentioned. Yukana then suggests they sing a famous anime song since she's the only one singing, and Junichi recognizes it, eventually enjoying his time singing. Afterward, she picks another anime song and removes her coat due to the heat, causing Junichi to fluster again, recalling Shinpei's rule. His thoughts lead him to initiate a passionate kiss, but she mentions his nose hair sticking out. He's defeated as she excuses herself to the bathroom. Outside, Yukana blushes at what happened, refusing to have her first kiss that easily. After karaoke, Junichi feels better when Yukana expresses her want to do karaoke with him again, while her girlfriend Renko watches them from afar. The next day, Junichi finds a love letter in his locker, sparking jealousy in Junpei and Kigo, so Shinpei urges him to meet the sender even though he's already dating Yukana, as it might help them find a girlfriend too. Surprisingly, it's another gal named Renko instead of the soft girl he expected. Renko then mocks his lack of mating experience, making him blush with her chest. He's criticized for getting excited with another woman as she hovers above, making him panic. When Yukana spots them, she angrily leaves despite his efforts to explain. Suddenly, Junichi becomes confused when Yukana returns and introduces Renko to him. Turns out, Renko only wants to meet Junichi, and she teases Yukana's reaction earlier before Yukana reveals they've been best friends since elementary school. Renko then fondles Yukana's large chest, making Junichi fluster to see her whimper, until she comes back to her senses when Renko questions how intimate they become already. Yukana clings to Junichi to walk home with him, and after saying farewell, she explains that Renko is quite risky, while Renko's expression sours as she plans to ruin them. That night, Junichi receives a text from Yukana saying they should hang out with Renko sometime. The three of them end up going bowling the next day, and they have fun doing different activities outside. Meanwhile, Nene spots the three outside and flees again in jealousy to see Junichi has gotten another girlfriend. Later, Yukana approaches Junichi to ask which outfit looks better while they go shopping, and he fantasizes about her appearance in the clothes. He didn't expect Yukana to like the style of clothing in the store, and she and Renko return wearing cute maid outfits, expecting a reaction from him. Junichi observes that Yukana's bosom looks bigger in the clothes, which leaves her annoyed since he only ever looks at her chest. Meanwhile, Renko is irritated by their interaction. After shopping, two suspicious men approach Yukana asking for directions and company to the station, making Junichi claim to be her boyfriend and kindly ask for them to stop. However, they push him to the ground, which worries Yukana, and Renko decides to accompany the men instead. After a while, Renko returns to them after teaching the men a lesson. Walking home, Junichi feels pathetic being unable to protect Yukana when he encounters Renko in front of his home, who expresses interest in him before dragging him inside. Inside, Renko sits on his lap and teases him for still having his V-card. She assumes that his letting her in his home is an invitation to make love, so she makes him choose between holding back his V-card to wait for Yukana, who she deems annoying, or losing it right now with her. Still, Junichi refuses and pushes Renko away, claiming he only wants to make love with the person he likes, causing her to rage as she disallows anyone else to own Yukana whom she likes. Suddenly, Yukana arrives to stop her, so both of them try to explain the situation, but luckily, Yukana doesn't hear anything and only assumes that Junichi has cheated. He then notices Renko's demeanor change as she feigns to have only tested if he'd cheat, and Yukana expresses gratitude for her efforts to keep them together. Renko cries and falls to the ground, and Yukana comforts her while Junichi feels relieved. The next day at school, Renko blushes to request Junichi not to tell Yukana about her feelings, but she's angered when he smiles after briefly finding her cute. Meanwhile, Yui watches them from afar. As Junichi is now surrounded by gals, he explores different gal types online but can't resist being drawn to a streamer named Boa. The next day, Yui is greeted by her friends in the classroom, but she sees everyone as her servants because she grew up thinking the world exists for her. She then observes Junichi meeting his friends, who share that Kigo keeps talking about a cute girl he saw on the stream. Despite initially having no interest, Shinpei also becomes attracted upon seeing the girl, and Junichi realizes it's Boa whom he saw last night. As Shinpei fantasizes about her, he recognizes her from somewhere else but stresses over being unable to recall. Later, Yukana eats lunch outside with Junichi, who can't help being nervous around her. He daydreams of sharing strawberries with Yukana, but reality sets in as he remembers they're with Renko. Yukana notices him deep in thought, and Renko assumes that he's planning something malicious, making Yukana giggle. Just as Junichi observes Renko is planning something, Yui arrives to speak with him privately, but Renko, irritated, tells her to get lost. When she leaves, Junichi denies any connection with Yui, while Renko feels suspicious of her. After school, Yukana leaves to hang out with friends, and Junichi jolts to find Yui behind him. Turns out she needs help in moving things her teacher instructed her to do, so Junichi accepts, blushing. Later on, Junichi is confused about arriving at a cafe with her instead, suspecting she's avoiding her school duties. He doubts it knowing she's a serious person, but he panics upon realizing she might be one of the serious gals he read about on the web. This causes him to imagine her making a move on him while the cafe owner is away until she shares her disbelief in his relationship with Yukana since she thought he liked more mature girls. That night while Shinpei watches Boa's stream, the girl rants about her servant dog dating another girl and his friends trying to make a move on his leftovers. Shinpei panics upon finally realizing Boa is Yui, so he observes her the next day at school while she clings to Junichi, making Yukana jealous. Talking privately with Kigo and Minoru, Shinpei reveals Boa's true identity and plays a recording of her from last night's stream where she called them 3 foul names. Just then, Renko arrives to hear the whole story. Despite initially hesitating to leave already, Yukana joins her friends to go home while Yui requests a personal favor from Junichi somewhere private. On the school rooftop, he's stunned when she suddenly confesses her love, expressing her want for him to date her instead of Yukana. However, he rejects Yui and pushes her away since he already likes Yukana, causing her anger for being the first dog who doesn't follow what she says. Junichi is speechless, but when she threatens to show Yukana the secret recording she took off their cafe date yesterday, Renko and his friends arrive just in time to stop her. Renko whispers Yui's true identity in her ear, and the boys claim they won't spread a thing, leaving her defeated as she hands the recording to Junichi before leaving the rooftop. Renko refuses to make Yukana sad before she arrives to go home with him. Walking home, Junichi recalls how he saw her go home with friends earlier, so he explains that Yui has only been asking for help recently, nothing weird. Still, Yukana knows how much he likes her and isn't worried at all, lifting his spirits. While dreaming about being intimate in bed with Yukana, Junichi is shocked to wake up and see himself grabbing the chest of a random girl sitting on top of him. The girl rambles about her experience in studying how to look and act like a gal, leaving him shocked to learn that she's Nene who transformed her appearance. Later, while they walk to school, Nene clings to Junichi's arm, but he asks her not to as people might get the wrong idea, feeling relieved when only his friends have spotted them. Minoru, who's attracted to children, demands to know who Nene is, but when she reveals she's only a year younger than Junichi, Minoru loses interest in her old age. Shinpei then expresses jealousy about Junichi being surrounded by gals while Kigo requests to be introduced to them, annoying him since going to school with a friend is normal. Seeing Nene purposely shove her chest into his arm, Shinpei and Kigo flee out of jealousy with Minoru following after. Inside, Yui greets Junichi before requesting he keep quiet about her confession yesterday. Upon observing how he smells like another girl, Nene approaches to invite him to go home together later, her words angering Yui until she's called for class. In the room, Junichi shares with Yukana how his whole morning has been a nightmare that left him worn out. So she suggests they go on a date on the weekend and keep the place a secret, sparking jealousy from Shinpei and Kigo. Disinterested, Minoru shows them a map he made which marks where cute children reside. This causes Shinpei to threaten that he might go to jail and request to have no connection with him when the time comes. During lunch, Yukana snatches away Junichi's favorite part of his meal and teasingly feeds him melon bread, and Renko reminds him to know his place when he becomes excited by her actions. Just then, Nene approaches to give Junichi cookies, but her licking off food residue from his face angers Yukana because even she hasn't kissed him yet. Renko questions who Nene is and Junichi panics, imagining that she'll beat him up for hurting her friend. Unexpectedly, Yukana recognizes her as his little sister and introduces herself as Junichi's girlfriend, irritating Nene. Feeling embarrassed to be laughed at, Nene shoves her chest into Yukana's to assert superiority that she's better. When Renko joins them, she rubs her chest against theirs, turning them on while Junichi can't help but feel in heaven watching the three. She firmly thinks that Junichi will never get a girlfriend because she's known him ever since, and Yukana defends him by claiming he has many good traits. This makes Nene flee in embarrassment, and Yukana deems her cute while Junichi worries. That night, Junichi studies gals again with Boa's stream after Nene turned herself into one. Boa's ranting about a large-chested underclassman reminds him of Nene, but before he can sleep, she suddenly appears under his sheets naked. She presses her body against his, which turns him on. But his thoughts stop him from losing his V-card to anyone other than Yukana. So Junichi calmly explains why he refuses to make love with Nene, and she recalls how he wanted her to be his bride when they were kids, Now dressed up, Nene accepts the rejection before leaving. The next morning at school, Yukana hugs Junichi from behind, noticing he's deep in thought. She teases him shortly as Nene arrives to hug him, revealing she's decided to become better than Yukana to steal him away from her. At school, Shinpei greets Junichi and encourages him to play the king game from a magazine wherein his friends will help him to make more progress with Yukana. The rule is to convince her to host a hangout with friends at her house, dedicating Junichi to accepting. During lunch, he finds himself zoning out thinking about how he'll mention it to Yukana, which annoys her since he didn't listen to her suggestion of going out during summer vacation. Before proposing the get-together, Junichi asks first if he can visit her home after school, stunning her into initially hesitating but accepting. So he requests to invite Ranko, Nene, and the boys, which makes her visibly irritated as she thought they'd bond alone. Later on, he fantasizes about being intimate alone with her until Yui approaches, assuming he's waiting for Yukana to go on a date with her. Junichi clarifies that they'll only hang out at her house, and he's eventually convinced to invite her to join them, making Yukana irritated again. He's then suspicious when Shinpei texts that everything will go well with their help. At Yukana's home, Junichi tries to peek at her changing in her bedroom after she teases that he doesn't have the guts to do it. However, she opens the door and invites him inside, and he's stunned to see her dazzling bedroom. He then notices her attractiveness wearing home clothes but stops when she criticizes his stare at her chest. Suddenly, Yukana reveals her parents are away and gets closer, but before Junichi can make a move, they're startled when Ranko and the others arrive. Turns out, Ranko used their hidden spare key to get inside, so Yukana explains that she was only teasing him. Nene then claims he can touch her chest anytime, and Yui feigns accidentally smacking him away from her as things get chaotic when Ranko joins. Later, Yukana returns with snacks along with Shinpei, Kigo, and Minoru dressed weirdly. Despite initially becoming embarrassed by them, Junichi introduces them to the girls, and when Shinpei suggests they play the king game, Yui suspects them of malice while Nene and Ranko take it as an opportunity to make a move on Junichi and Yukana. As Kigo is the king, he orders 2 to slap 5, so Ranko slaps Junichi, causing Yukana's worry. Next round, Yukana becomes king and makes number 1 Yui introduce herself using baby talk, which makes the girls giggle and deem her cute. When Yui becomes king, she makes number 6 Nene show a flirtatious pose so she nears her chest at Junichi's face, making him fluster. They enjoy the game with snacks, and after a while, Shinpei shares his plan to make Junichi and Yukana kiss with him. Being assigned the leader, Junichi worries if things will go wrong until Shinpei orders the numbers supposedly to be Junichi's and Yukana's to kiss, becoming shocked when Junichi jumbled the sticks. With Kigo having to kiss Minoru and Shinpei having to kiss Junichi, the girls encourage them to do so, leaving them defeated after as the girls claim to have had fun. Yukana, aware of Shinpei's plan, whispers a thank you to Junichi for saving them, which raises Nene's suspicions of them. Then, Yukana recalls her plan to go out over summer vacation, so she invites everyone to come along, shocking Junichi, who thought the plan was only for the 2 of them. Everyone agrees to go, but when they realize they lack the expenses for a trip, Yukana suggests they find jobs immediately to gather enough money before the summer break. 41 days until their trip, the boys are in disbelief about going on a beach trip with girls, but with Kigo dreading the stress from a part-time job, Shinpei assures him by showing him an anime shop where they can work. He then offers Minoru a job at the daycare center, while Junichi is stunned to be assigned to cosplay, where he'll be a maid. Still, they're dedicated to making money for the trip, and the days pass until Shinpei and Kigo become worn out from their unexpectedly tiring job at the anime shop. Turns out, Junichi will be working with the girls dressed as maids at the cosplay cafe, where he'll work as a kitchen staff. Throughout the days, the customers become very fond of the girls, while Shinpei finally adapts to their shop and works swiftly. 23 days before the trip, Junichi accidentally walks into Yui changing clothes in the staff room, which causes her to scream and slap him in the face. Afterward, Yukana questions if he peeked at Yui changing, so he clarifies that it was only a coincidence that she was changing when he entered. Still, Yui feels embarrassed to wear the outfits their manager assigns to them. The next day, the cafe's air conditioner breaks down, and as Yukana sweats due to the heat, she chugs some of Junichi's drink, making him blush at their indirect kiss. However, just before he can drink after her, Ranko barges in, causing him to toss the bottle to the floor as Ranko steps on it. 18 days before the trip, Shinpei and Kigo's boss announces he'll be out for a while, so he assigns Shinpei to take over their staff in the meantime. Meanwhile, Kigo observes he's up to something. Everyone then works diligently to make money until only 6 days remain. When Junichi arrives home after work, he lies on the bed and realizes tomorrow will be his last day at the cafe, dozing off as he forgets about the event tomorrow. The next day, he learns that the event is Book Girl Day, wherein the girls will wear school uniforms and read novels in front of the customers. Yukana requests Junichi to pick a good novel to read as the others arrived, and Yui flusters reading an unexpectedly intimate book. She's then angered and claims to be fed up before leaving the room, leaving everyone confused. Nene suspects that Junichi might own books like those, so she reads a scene from another book where a couple is making love, questioning if the story turns him on. Seeing Yukana blushing hard, Ranko snatches the book away during the story's climax and continues reading instead. She then teases him about becoming flustered, and Yukana eventually reads a book as well in jealousy, making Ranko blush. Fed up, Junichi shouts for them to stop before criticizing their boss for providing such dirty books. Luckily, Yui steps in to hand their boss a phone call from the owner, who orders him to cancel the event. Afterward, she confirms that they will all get the promised amount of wage their boss promised them, defeating him as the others feel thankful when he leaves. After work, Yukana confesses she thought Junichi was cool earlier, confusing him shortly as she lists the next jobs she wants to try along with the things she wants to do with him. She then ends the topic upon blushing, and they agree to go somewhere else fun alone some other time. On the day of the trip, everyone shows excitement to finally go to the beach. At the beach, the boys admire the girls in bikinis, but Junichi is mostly captivated by Yukana's beauty. Yui gets jealous when Junichi leaves her to join the other girls in the sea, so she joins them when Nene presses her chest against him again. Meanwhile, the boys are bored, but it's fine since they can gaze at the girls around them. Now playing beach ball, Ranko uses it as an opportunity to strike Junichi down before inviting Yukana to accompany her and finding a place to eat dinner. So Nene takes advantage of her alone time with Junichi to make a sand castle with him, and Yui eventually joins as she has nothing else to do. Afterwards, she and Nene suggest putting more details on the castle, but Junichi leaves them to approach Yukana and Ranko, who he sees talking to other guys from afar. When he's noticed, the girls bid farewell to the men and express gratitude for helping them escape. Meanwhile, Junichi enjoys the feel of their chests pressing onto his arms. Returning to Shinpei and Kigo, they offer to watch everyone's stuff in the meantime so the boys can also enjoy the beach, leaving them defeated. Later on, Ranko removes her swimsuit top and requests Junichi rub sunscreen on her back, and Yukana does the same out of jealousy, making him feel in heaven but frustrated about what to do. So he just goes for it, blushing when the girls get turned on with his rubbing. Meanwhile, Keigo complains about their boring events at the beach, but Shinpei assures them that the fun will start when they return to the inn and persuade Junichi to make love with Yukana. As the girls smoke skewers for dinner, Shinpei and Kigo call Junichi over to privately reveal to him their plan. Back at the inn, the girls prepare to bathe together, and Junichi urges the boys to stop their plan of peeping at them bathing. Eventually, he's convinced to join, and Minoru leaves to bathe in the mixed bath where the kids bathe. Meanwhile, Ranko fondles the other girls' chests, and Yukana joins her in teasing Nene. Initially uncomfortable, Yui eventually joins them when Yukana is happy about her coming. Since the women's bathroom has tight security around it, the boys wear equipment to swiftly escape the traps set by the innkeeper in the woods. However, it turns out that Shinpei was the one who set up the traps, and he and Kigo suddenly turn on Junichi, calling him a traitor for being malicious. They then chase him through the woods until he falls down a cliff, and they quickly proceed to the women's bath, but they're surrounded by traps that injure Shinpei. Still, he's dedicated to seeing the girls, and they hurriedly run through the route until Shinpei becomes defeated. Sogi orders Kigo to run and record the girls, but he steps on a trap that sets off fireworks which the girls enjoy at the bath. Later, Junichi jolts awake at the beach to see Yukana worried after spotting him when the girls arrive at the beach to light fireworks. He immediately asks about Shinpei and Kigo, and Yukana is confused to reveal that they were found unconscious in the mountains while Minoru passed out in the bath. Junichi feels apologetic for causing many problems, and Yukana assures it's fine, making him propose they return next time as just the two of them. He claims his ideal date would be at the amusement park, and Yukana moves closer, feeling appreciative, while the girls notice their romance. As Yukana and Junichi return from their trip, they bump into her old friend Dae, who compliments Yukana's looks and implies he's now a better match for her. Yukana eagerly accepts his invitation to meet their middle school friends tomorrow, leaving Junichi feeling defeated by Dae's popularity and looks. He plans to stay invisible until Dae notices him, so Yukana introduces him as her boyfriend, and he flusters when her chest touches his arm. Afterward, Dae drools over Yukana while Junichi overthinks about their relationship during middle school and opens up about his jealousy towards Dae. He claims they look meant for each other, making Yukana's mood sour as she leaves to go home alone. That night, Junichi watches Boa's stream again where she rants about a beach trip, and he remembers how he had fun in theirs. The next morning in school, the boys express happiness about their trip until they find Junichi down and request to know what happened. Upon sharing what happened with Yukana, Shinpei cries about Dai and claims Yukana is taken intimately by another man, which Junichi struggles to understand. Before he can explain more about his assumption of Dai's large shaft, Yukana arrives to greet only her friends. During the break, Junichi is ignored when he tries to approach her and is left with only after school to apologize. So he chases her to the locker room, but Yukana dismisses him as she's rushing to meet middle school friends, leaving him defeated. The boys drag him to karaoke to lift his spirits, but his delusion about Yukana annoys Shinpei into convincing him to apologize to her tomorrow. Finally, Junichi relaxes and enjoys karaoke with them. Afterward, he expresses gratitude and they wish him luck with Yukana only until they spot her happily talking with Dai afar. The following morning, Junichi wonders if Yukana was ever serious about him and tears up realizing his feelings are genuine, but Yukana suddenly greets him brightly as if she didn't cheat on him. She explains that she was only with Dai alone as he wanted to talk about something after their hangout. However, Junichi doesn't believe her and explodes about how he'd rather keep his V card rather than get his feelings hurt. Yukana's look confuses him, so he runs away to go to school, and Yukana arrives without greeting him. During recess, Yui questions Junichi about what happened upon noticing the tension in the classroom. So he opens up about how she was only messing with him the whole time it hurt him, angering her into calling him selfish instead of Yukana's feelings. After school, Mine hugs Junichi while he walks home and notices his frustration. She then encourages him to stop sulking over simple things or else she'll become his bride, recalling the time he claimed she would if he still isn't cool in the future. At home, Junichi realizes that Yui and Mene were right while watching Boa, who rants about the man she liked who turned her off because of his selfishness. Eventually, he realizes Boa is Yui and texts the boys to talk tomorrow. The next day, Ranko, Yui, and Mene meet Yukana to talk about Junichi, and her sudden tears worry them, making Ranko leave to confront him. While the boys criticize Junichi at a restaurant, Ranko arrives and angrily faces him. But his decision to face Yukana and admit his mistakes calms her as Dai and his friends arrive at another table. Hearing them talk badly about Yukana, Ranko stands to confront them only to be stopped by Junichi, who approaches instead. Dai recognizes Junichi as Yukana's lame boyfriend as he tells them to take back everything they said, but Dai is firm on deeming Yukana a hooker. He then teases Junichi for still having his V card, but things escalate outside when he becomes annoyed. Outside, Junichi's attempt to punch Dai fails, so he retorts by biting his leg, which makes him whimper as his friends start beating him up. When Dai promises to take his words back, he lets go only to be fooled and get beaten up. Dai claims Yukana is the type of girl to use guys, and he plans to do the same to her. Suddenly, Ranko downs two of the men, scaring the others while Dai orders them to capture her. Again, they're distracted when Shinpei, Kigo, and Minoru arrive, cheering him on to go to Yukana. While Ranko and the boys handle Dai and his friends, Junichi calls Yukana, who refuses to answer her phone. So Yui and Mene deem Junichi a loser and urge Yukana to be more controlling. However, she's unsure whether he genuinely likes her, so Yui suggests she ask him directly about it, making her appreciative of their advice. When Yukana leaves, Yui and Nene jokingly wonder if helping their enemy is the right choice. Meanwhile, Dai is the last man standing in his group. He feigns he won't do a thing to anyone and asks for forgiveness, but Ranko doesn't believe him and moves closer to punch. Suddenly, a child approaching distracts them into letting Dai run away, and is hurting the child to escape angers Minoru, who chases him away. Shinpei and Kigo stop him, and Ranko orders them to let go so Dai can learn his lesson the hard way. Later on, Junichi waits for Yukana at school, hoping she'll show up after reading his message. His friends send a picture of Dai defeated, which lifts his spirits, but as time passes, he tears up reminiscing how his life transformed after meeting Yukana. When she finally arrives, Junichi kneels and begs for her to date him, also apologizing for being selfish and weak. Initially sulking, Yukana blushes and makes him stand when he lists down everything he loves about her. She then proposes they go somewhere she's been longing to visit, keeping it a secret from Junichi. They meet again in a while after changing into presentable clothes, and Junichi is stunned to see her wearing the outfit he chose for her in the past. They arrive at an amusement park, and Yukana recalls how he wanted to visit one at night, her smile making his feelings explode inside. They enjoy rides and attractions together, and Yukana observes Junichi's enjoyment. After resting, she drags him to a photo booth where he observes only couples are around before getting lost. Upon accidentally peeping into a couple kissing inside a booth, he imagines doing the same with Yukana, but jolts when she appears behind him. They then enter the booth, and Junichi claims they don't have to follow when it tells them to kiss for a photo. Yukana deems it boring otherwise, so he leans in, becoming embarrassed, where she tricks him and laughs. Back outside, Yukana hands him a copy of their pictures, and they both confess they had fun. She then expresses her want to go there again every year as they hold hands, and later on, Junichi asks why she's so faithful to him, which she keeps a secret. Suddenly, she kisses him before saying goodbye and running away, leaving him speechless while she blushes from what she did.